Let me write up. I think I'm going to draw. It's called the value triangle. I'll draw that on the board here. To kind of illustrate what I mean. I'm not going to get it wrong, so I'm going to look at my cheat sheet. So we got value / return on this corner of the triangle. We've got the price of whatever the products or services that you're delivering, the revenue that's generated by the business, the price that you're charging your customer, and then you've got the cost. We could look at this as the cost of the products or services that you're delivering, but I would say the cost of all your expenses in your business would be on this side. And this concept here and where you're at with this dotted line really describes how you're performing in your business. So for those that are visual learners, and Sean, if you want to elaborate on any area here, you can chime in for sure. But as you approach any role that you have in a business, whether it's digging ditches or whether it's running the business, optimizing this triangle is super, super important. For instance, when I was digging ditches, the owner of that construction company asked me to go buy all of the equipment that I needed for that job. So in my mind, not at the time, but it could have been really focused on how do I optimize this triangle for that business, and that will speak volumes to the owner of that business if you are optimizing here. So think about it this way. So we've got the value or return that's delivered to a customer. That's what we got right here. So this is the customer's value. The difference between the price that you charge that customer and the value that they're going to generate from buying whatever you're giving them, we call that ROI, or the return on investment that they spent. So this is what the customer bought, the price that they bought it at. Say they bought, say they bought its stock at $1 and sold it at $4, they made $3 here. So pretty simple, but that's the ROI that you're going to achieve as a customer of any business, is the difference between the value that you derive from the product or service and the price that you pay. And then you look at the difference between the price that a customer pays your business and the cost to keep the lights on in that business. Everything from the email, accounts that you have to pay to keep people's emails flowing through, to, the shovels if you're a construction company, to the servers if you're a software company. So that's everything that you can think of to keep the lights on. That's going to be your cost or your run rate. And inside here is your profit. And one of the things I was just talking with Sean a little bit about too, before I started, was a lot of people, and I was super cognizant of this coming into the business, especially as somebody who was half the age of 3 of my employees, is like, if I'm just talking about profit, it can feel pretty stale, it can feel pretty self-centered. It can feel like, okay, why am I working so hard so that Steven gets more profit for his business? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it can be really hard in moments of trial or challenging times in a business to prioritize and work hard if the only thing that's being communicated about the goal of that business is profit for the sake of profit. It also, and when we think about it eternally, it actually just makes things harder to get into the kingdom of God, and so as Jesus said in Mark 10. So it's really not a worthy cause in and of itself to pursue. And this is my opinion, of course. However, it is incredibly important when you think about how to continue and grow the value that you're delivering to clients, and also the situation and environment that you're providing to employees and for yourself and your family. So this could be different, the answer to that question of why am I doing this is different for each person. But in general, from the business perspective, there's a really good book called Good Profit. I'm not sure if you guys have talked at all about private equity, but the Koch brothers, Koch, they own a very large private equity firm. They own, I think, a couple of our customers now. and they've got, I think it's something like 10 to 20 billion dollars worth of businesses under management that they've bought and run. But they talk about this concept of good profit. And good profit is when you are optimizing this triangle, you're providing enough profit, not just to keep the lights on, but to build a business that a customer is super thrilled about doing business with. You can think about like, trying to think about a good business that you guys might enjoy, even like a local pizza shop. If that local pizza shop is not optimizing for profit, you know, who knows what kind of stuff is going to be in your pizza? Who knows if there's going to be cleanliness in the kitchen? It's like, in order for you as a customer to derive value from that business, there absolutely must be profit in that business. If that pizza shop turns into Pizza Hut, right, and is delivering hopefully high quality food for more people, are escalating the impact that they're having on their customers, then you want to look at optimizing for profit. So you can think about this for something that's a little bit more important, like a nonprofit, say feeding, you know, starving children. If you're going to make a bigger impact, you need to be optimizing this triangle. And it's a continuum, right? You can definitely err on one side of being money hungry and greedy, but then you could also be way on the other side of, I'm going to deliver value at the expense of myself to the point where I'm no longer in a position to serve. And that's the continuum that you need to find a good balance on in any business. But I will tell you, with a business that isn't huge, but you know, now up to about 20 or so people, that if I'm not appropriately describing why, you know, customers are achieving value and how each person in that business is making an impact on achieving that value, you immediately lose the benefit or the motivation to optimize for profit as an employee or in any business. So you could think about, like, you know, when Tom's Shoes hit the scene and they were talking about getting children, you know, like that don't have shoes, getting them shoes, and every shoe that you bought, they would give one to a child in need. It's this whole concept of making an impact that really blew up that business. Now, their business model, they didn't run the numbers and let the numbers tell them what to do. It was an unsustainable level of giving that ultimately left them in a position where they struggled to deliver any value. So it's super important for you to think about optimizing this triangle. I know I'm throwing a lot out there. I didn't really ask for questions. Does anybody have any questions on this or thoughts on this whole concept? No?
Can I add something, Stephen?
Yeah.
So this is something we actually talk with our clients about a lot, where a lot of businesses, the way they run is they figure out what is our cost going to be. So let's say for the Balance Masters, we figure, okay, it's going to cost us about $15,000 to buy the equipment, and then we need to rent a truck every time we have a delivery, and so on and so forth. Okay, well, we need to make at least $36,000 to break even. Then we dictate all of our pricing and all of our customer experience around, we need to hit that number. And that's it. And so they're taking this cost, and they have this profit in mind of where they want to be, and that all dictates the price. But in turn, it continues, and they dictates what the value, what the ROI is for the customer. On the other hand, you can take a step over here and say, what value or return do we want to give to our customer? What ROI do we want them to have? What is it going to take to make sure they're getting the most value possible? Now, let's set a price so that we can make a profit doing that. Completely different approach. And that's something that's really important in the business world, is if you're focused on cost, which at some point in your career, there will be a manager who's focused on cost, then everything is going to be focused about cost, including your conversation with the customer. If your focus is value, what's the ROI? Well, the value in accounting, is public accounting, is not only financial return, it's not only, okay, your company's not going bankrupt, but it's peace of mind. It's knowing you're making the right decisions. It's knowing that there's no opportunity cost lost. and we start talking about all of that return on investment and all that value, where this price lands completely changes. And what we're able to deliver completely changes.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as a sales methodology, value-based selling is something that became really popular, I think probably a long time ago, but probably like 10 years or so ago, but became a really instrumental approach to describing the benefits that a customer is going to get. So for instance, if I were to sell you this cup of coffee and talk to you about the milligrams of caffeine that you're going to get and the different types of processes physiologically that's going to catalyze in your body and how you're going to feel different types of hormones, and that's going to give you this type of feeling, as opposed to just saying like, this will wake you up. Like, it's really tasty and it wakes you up. That's like, you don't necessarily care about all the nuts and bolts of how I got from the cost to the profit or to the price. That's like, okay, you're gonna have a server that's 4 gigs, 10 gigs of RAM, it's gonna give you a disk of 1 terabyte. It's like, it's actually just a Facebook account. You can connect with your friends. It's like, those are the types of things that you think about in selling. You wanna talk about and describe the value that a customer is going to derive this and paint them a picture of their state after using your product or using your service. So like for Sean, if I were to being a customer of his, the state of value that I'm in after buying his firm's services is one that has peace of mind about our business running profitably and keeping the lights on. It has peace of mind of my family not resulting in financial ruin. It has the peace of mind that I'm going to make payroll in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. But then it also has the peace of mind and the ability for us to just be focused on delivering the value that we can deliver to customers. So that's kind of a metaphor within a metaphor. So it might be a little bit challenging. But for DocLive, which is my software company, the value that we're delivering is basically making people's lives easier day to day within a manufacturing company, but then also helping managers and executives within a manufacturing company make really great decisions. And that's I think the core 2 areas. So for instance, one of my customers, before they bought, they didn't have our product. They had something go wrong with the manual data entry type work that they were doing, and they were losing $1 million a day with having their manufacturing floor shut down. So I could have gone in and said, hey, you don't need to be typing in the $5 invoice into your system. You don't need to be just being a data monkey, and that might be worth maybe a part-time person's salary, maybe $20,000, $30,000 over the course of a year. It's like, that would be, like Sean said, starting with the cost. It's like, okay, it's going to cost us maybe, software margins are pretty high. So it might cost us maybe $5,000. We're going to sell it for maybe $30,000, and they're going to get the value of maybe $50,000. Well, instead, if I ask the right questions, it's like, what does it cost you guys to have your manufacturing floor down? $1 million a day. It's like, okay, so that's $365 million a year. That's a very different, I'm selling them a $30,000 product to save the risk of $365 million is very different. It's a very different discussion when it comes to sales. The negotiation is much easier as well when you're talking about, okay, I'm actually going to sell this for 80 to 100K a year. I'm not going to, I'm going to give them a 10x ROI on the time period that we were selling it at. It's like a no-brainer for them. But at the end of the day, our cost, we can now over-invest into value. We no longer need to just make sure that we're staying at the $5,000 cost, for that product. We can now over-invest. We could hire somebody just dedicated to that customer. The value that they're going to get is probably way above and beyond what even I was selling. If I've got that kind of profit to invest into that value creation. And then it's also like, okay, now the pressure is off as an employee. You can focus without having to worry about whether or not this company is going to be around tomorrow. You can focus on just delivering value. And now the customer and the company that you're working for is massively benefiting from that approach.